The problem with perfection, the megalodon is often called the most perfect shark that ever lived. This was the apex predator of the oceans. Huge, brutal, and equipped with some of the largest teeth nature has ever crafted. But as fascinating as megalodons are, they might not have been the masters of perfection after all. Because when we hear most perfect, we tend to think of a creature with no flaws, with no weaknesses. But in the world of nature, perfection means something different. It means being perfectly suited to your environment. And for Megaraptor, things were about to change dramatically. In a paper published in 2020, the authors proposed something revolutionary. Megaraptor, they argued, did not belong to the raptor family at all. Instead, it was closely related to the sea megalodon. To understand why this matters, let's take a step back. For decades, scientists considered sea megalodon to be the ultimate killing machine, a terror that swam through the seas for over 20 million years, eating pretty much anything it wanted. But then a few years ago, another study challenged this idea. It suggested that sea megalodon actually spent its time hunting in groups, working together to corral schools of fish and whales. If true, that meant the megalodon needed to be smarter, more agile, and perhaps even more social than previously imagined. So what does this have to do with Well, the authors of the 2020 paper noticed a lot of similarities in how both animals moved, hunted, and interacted with their Both, they pointed out, had large eyes, suggesting good eyesight. They were probably fast, too, and capable of sudden bursts of movement. In other words, they were neither mindless killing machines nor solitary man-eaters. Instead, both species combined ferocity with smarts, using brains and brawn in equal measure to get the job done. And to top it off, they both went extinct around the same time, 66 million years ago, right after the asteroid hit. The authors concluded that the two may have shared more similarities than just their appearance. Perhaps sea megalodons spent time on land, stalking prey or even scavenging. And who knows? Maybe those famous gigantic teeth left their mark on dry land, too. Or perhaps the ancestors of Megaraptor evolved from a lineage of sea megalodon that ventured into new territory. Either way, this isn't just a scientific debate. It helps us understand why Megaraptor might have been such a nightmare predator. Their behavior wasn't solely based on brute force. It was on skill and strategy, too. Now, let's dig into what made this creature a true monster. What is the meaning of the name Megaraptor? The term raptor makes us think of swift, deadly hunters. And that's exactly what Megaraptor was. The word itself means big thief. And what was it stealing? Most likely, me. We know Megaraptor was a carnivore, but its preferred prey remained a mystery. The original 2005 study noted that the size of its teeth and skull suggested the animal could handle big game. Others have suggested that Megaraptor might have specialized in hunting smaller creatures. So what's the answer? Well, according to the fossil evidence, Megaraptor was a generalist. Its diet wasn't limited to one type of animal. It fed on anything it could catch. In other words, nothing was safe. And when we talk about the scale of the potential prey, we mean really big game. And no, I'm not talking about deer or bison. There were plenty of large dinosaurs roaming Argentina during Megaraptor's time, and we can find clues about its diet in their bones. One interesting detail has caught the attention of many researchers. Some sauropod bones found in Patagonia bear scars, puncture wounds left by sharp weapons. And when scientists examined the wounds, they discovered that the marks matched the teeth of Megaraptor perfectly. This suggests that Megaraptor didn't hesitate to hunt giants. Well, it's hard to say whether it actively sought out sauropods or scavenged when it could. One thing is clear. Megaraptor did not shy away from taking on the biggest prey. They were not afraid of titans. And here's where the story takes a turn from predator to parasite, the Megalodon vs. The dinosaur. The relationship between sea megalodon and dinosaurs is a complicated one. Considering they lived millions of years apart, our knowledge of it is mostly based on fossils, which are great at showing us size and shape, but less so when it comes to behavior. This leaves us wondering how sea megalodon fit into the larger ecosystem. And here's what we've pieced together. About 66 million years ago, a mass extinction wiped out the dinosaurs, opening up the oceans to new possibilities. With fewer large predators to worry about, sea megalodon thrived. But it wasn't the only one. The fossil record shows us that the time after the extinction saw an explosion in biodiversity. Hundreds of new species suddenly filled the empty niches left by the dinosaurs. But looking at it from a broader perspective, it seems there was an even bigger change in the environment. Marine temperatures across the globe are on the rise. By the end of the Cretaceous period, the average ocean temperature was about 4 degrees higher than today. So imagine living in an underwater world where the water was warmer and the food was plentiful. You'd probably feel pretty invincible, too. But that's precisely when C. megalodon started its decline. As the climate changed, so did the makeup of the oceans. Species adapted to warmer waters began to dominate. And with that, the age of C. megalodon came to an end. And here's the kicker. Some scientists believe that this was not a coincidence, that the rise of new species, including those better suited for warm water, played a role in the megalodon's disappearance. In other words, the competition didn't come from within, it came from everywhere. If this is true, then maybe C. megalodon was not the predator we think it was. Perhaps its reign was more about being in the right place at the right time than about pure power. The rise of a new beast nature has its own way of balancing the scales. When one species rises, another falls, and the cycle continues indefinitely. And that brings us back to the megalodon. With a body length comparable to today's blue whales and jaws that could easily snap a human in half, it seems almost impossible that anything could match it. But we forget that evolution doesn't always work in a straight line. Sometimes new species emerge not to be bigger, stronger, or smarter, but simply to be different. Enter Basilosaurus, a whale with a bite as big as a door. Compared to modern whales, Basilosaurus was massive, measuring between 43 and 52 feet long. That's about 3 school buses. It weighed somewhere between 60 and 80 tons, making it heavier than a blue whale. But what truly set it apart were its teeth. Just picture a row of thick, sturdy teeth, each one about 7 inches wide and shaped like a banana. And don't forget that they were not just any old teeth. They were the largest teeth on the planet. No creature on land or in the sea had anything close to them. The sheer size of its teeth allowed Basilosaurus to eat just about anything it wanted. And yet, these colossal chompers were not enough to prevent its downfall. Like many other marine reptiles, Basilosaurus went extinct around 36 million years ago. And the reason, well, it's still a mystery. Was it a change in ocean currents, food scarcity, or a combo of factors? We don't know. But the irony is clear. Just as C. megalodon seemed unbeatable, Basilosaurus entered the scene and showed everyone what a truly perfect predator looked like. The race for the top had begun. Now watch what if the biggest animals that ever existed still live today, or check out the scariest monster in the sea, the terror from the depths. There's a reason why we say beware of dog. Teeth and jaws, the claws may have stolen the spotlight, but the jaws of Megaraptors were no less nightmarish. Unlike most predator families, each species had evolved unique teeth. Some had teeth like tyrannosaurs, thick and chisel-shaped. Others had sharp fangs. Some mimicked the shark-like blades of Crocoronos, even though their bites weren't the most powerful. The variety and efficiency of their teeth meant one thing. No matter what kind of prey they caught, they had the perfect tools to tear it apart. And unlike the fictional Indoraptor, whose teeth were small and meant more for gripping, Megaraptors were built to shred, puncture, and consume. Nature's hybrids, done better than fiction. Size and power, the Indoraptor in Jurassic World was terrifying at around 25 feet in length. But in the fossil record, that's just medium. Some Megaraptors reached over 30 feet. One, discovered in Argentina, stretched up to 10 meters, longer than even the largest Allosaurus. This predator was called Mape, named after a mythical spirit known as the Shadow of Death. It weighed tons, carried claws up to 15 inches long, and likely ruled its environment as the undisputed apex predator. And while many dinosaurs lumbered heavily, Megaraptors were different. Their bones were hollow, light, and built for speed. Some were so light that paleontologists call them the cheetahs of their time. Agile, swift, and equipped with claws that could shred through flesh in seconds. These were not lumbering monsters. They were prehistoric assassins. Behavior and brutality evidence shows Megaraptors weren't just killers, they were aggressive, even toward each other. Fossils of one species reveal bite marks from its own kind, with wounds so severe they may have caused its death. Rivalry, cannibalism, and brutal combat were all part of their world. And their range, massive. From South America to Australia to Asia, Megaraptors carved out territory across 3 continents. Wherever rivers, coastlines, or wetlands teemed with prey, Megaraptors thrived. Some may have even hunted crocodiles, turtles, or giant fish using those claws, like harpoons, to snatch victims from the water. The question is, if Megaraptor was such a fearsome beast, why don't we know more about it? Why are there so few fossils? Why haven't we found any in North America? Well, much of the southern continents were once joined together in a landmass called so it makes sense that these megapredators would be found there. But as the supercontinent broke apart and drifted away, so did the Megaraptor's fossil remains. But recently researchers have found a new site in Patagonia that contains lots of Megaraptor fossils, which means that we may learn even more about this vicious beast soon. And who knows what other relatives of Ankylosaurus and C. megalodon are hiding in the rocks. Just don't go looking for them down under, or you might end up as their next meal. Specimen News, the producers, would like to thank the following institutions for providing access to their collections. We especially want to thank the National University of Comayagua for granting U.S. access to the Megaraptor fossils from Plaza de los Mestizos. Would you like to support the work that we do here? Visit our support page for more information. They weren't just predators. They were opportunists. Anything alive, anything at all, was welcome. Megaraptors were one of the longest living groups of dinosaurs, ruling from the late Triassic all the way until the end of the Cretaceous. While other meat-eaters, like tyrannosaurs, dominated for a few million years and then went extinct, Megaraptors stuck around for over 80 million years. And yet for all that time on top, we still don't know where they came from. We think they may have been related to tyrannosaurs, but they may also have been something else entirely. So far, we haven't found a fossil of a true Megapothecus in anything earlier than the Jurassic period. And that means there's a huge gap in our understanding of their history. Did they appear out of nowhere? Or are there older fossils waiting to be discovered that will fill in the blanks? Unfortunately, the answer is a big, fat, juicy mystery. But what we do know is that by the time they showed up, they were already killing machines, and they stayed that way for tens of millions of years, giving rise to some of the largest, fastest, most ferocious predators in history. And they achieved all of that thanks to one simple adaptation: their claws. First, let's set the stage. The late Triassic was a time of ecological chaos. The supercontinent Pangaea had just broken apart, creating new habitats and new opportunities for animals to evolve and thrive in. In particular, it opened up vast stretches of coastal plains, shallow seas, and lush inland valleys, places that would soon be filled with herds of plant-eating dinosaurs. And that meant there was plenty of opportunity for smart, opportunistic predators to come in and claim some of that delicious herbivore flesh. And that's exactly what Megaraptors did. Compared to most other meat-eaters, Megaraptors weren't particularly specialized. They weren't built for chasing down fast prey, nor were they equipped to take on large armored dinosaurs. Instead, they were generalists, happy to feed on pretty much anything that crossed their path. And that meant they had to be quick and deadly, able to take advantage of any opportunity that came their way. And those skills were perfectly suited to life in the Triassic, when entire ecosystems were up for grabs. In other words, they were perfectly suited to become the apex predators of their world. Hey there, welcome to my channel. If you love dinosaurs, then make sure to stay tuned for more prehistoric fun facts every week.